It was a warm afternoon in a small town in Georgia. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and the streets were quiet, except for the occasional car passing by. Officer Brad Thompson was driving his patrol car, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. Brad was known in his department as someone who took his job seriously, sometimes too seriously. People often said he was quick to judge, especially when it came to people he didn't really know. That afternoon, Brad noticed a black SUV pull into a nearby parking lot. The vehicle was a bit older, but it had some stickers and decals that caught his attention. One was a flag of the United States, and another showed that the owner might be connected to the military. Inside the car, Brad saw a large German shepherd sitting calmly. The dog looked strong and alert, but it wasn't barking or acting wild. Brad saw the SUV's taillight flicker and thought it might be broken. He decided to pull the car over. It was something he did all the time. A quick traffic stop to check licenses and registrations. But this time, Brad didn't know that the woman driving was not an ordinary person. Her name was Serena Miles. Serena was a black woman in her early 30s. She was calm and collected as she pulled to the side of the road. She knew the law well, and she was used to being careful around police officers because she had faced unfair treatment before. Serena had served 2 tours in Afghanistan as an Army staff sergeant. She was brave, disciplined, and trained to stay calm in tough situations. Alongside her was Rex, her German shepherd, who was no ordinary pet. Rex was trained by military K-9 experts to assist her during and after her service. He was more than a dog. He was her partner and protector. When Brad walked up to the driver's side window, he looked Serena up and down with suspicion. In his mind, she was just another person who might cause trouble. He barely listened when she spoke and treated her like she was hiding something. Serena handed him her driver's license and registration without saying much. She could tell Brad was already making assumptions, but she stayed quiet, waiting to see what would happen. Brad glanced at the papers and then at Serena's military ID hanging from the rearview mirror. Instead of respect, he felt annoyed. He thought Serena was acting like she was above the law because of her military background. He didn't know her story, and he didn't want to know. "You're driving like you don't care about the rules," Brad said sharply. Serena kept her eyes steady on Brad but said nothing. She knew arguing wouldn't help. She had learned from experience that the best way to handle officers like Brad was with patience and calm. Inside her, though, she felt the familiar tension rise. She had dealt with prejudice many times before, but she never let it break her. Rex sat quietly in the back seat, but watched everything with sharp eyes. The dog sensed Serena's emotions and stayed alert, ready to protect her if needed. Serena trusted Rex completely. He had saved her life more than once during their military missions. Brad's tone grew harsher. He stepped closer to the window and said, "Step out of the car." Serena hesitated. She knew she had the right to ask why, but she also knew that questioning an officer's orders could make things worse. She slowly opened the door and stepped out, keeping her hands visible. The moment Serena got out of the car, Rex moved closer to her side, standing tall but calm. Brad looked at the dog and frowned. He didn't like how alert Rex was. It made him uncomfortable. Instead of thinking about the dog as a trained partner, he saw Rex as a threat. Nearby, a few people had noticed the traffic stop. Some were watching from the sidewalk, curious about what was happening. Serena noticed them but didn't look away from Brad. Brad's voice was sharp and commanding. "I said step away from the car." Serena replied, steady and calm. "May I ask why, officer?" Brad rolled his eyes but said nothing at first. Then he said, "Because I want to. You're being suspicious." Serena knew this was not about the taillight anymore. It was about Brad's attitude toward her. She took a deep breath and said, "Officer, I have all my documents in order. If there's an issue, please explain." Brad didn't like her tone. He called for backup over the radio. Serena heard him and stayed calm. She knew that sometimes officers called for help when they felt unsure or threatened, but she wasn't afraid. She had trained herself to stay strong, no matter what. Rex growled softly, a warning sound that was low and controlled. Serena put a hand on Rex's side and whispered, "Stay calm." The dog relaxed but didn't move away from her. Brad's attitude made the situation tense. He seemed to expect Serena to act nervous or scared, but she didn't. She stood tall and kept her voice steady. The backup officer arrived quickly and Serena greeted him with a polite nod. The second officer looked at the situation and immediately noticed that Brad was agitated without reason. Serena used the moment to ask, "Could I speak to your supervisor, please?" The officers exchanged glances. Brad frowned but called his supervisor. While waiting, Serena stayed near her car. She watched Rex carefully and felt a mix of emotions, frustration but also hope. She hoped that the supervisor would understand the situation better. The crowd watching had grown a little larger. Some people whispered about what they saw, wondering if the stop was fair. Serena knew this wasn't just about her. It was about how people were treated every day because of their skin color or background. As the supervisor arrived, Serena took a deep breath, ready to explain her side of the story. The arrival of the backup officer and the promise of a supervisor's presence did little to calm Officer Brad Thompson. Instead, it seemed to make him more impatient and tense. He kept his eyes on Serena and Rex, watching their every move with suspicion. Brad was not used to being questioned or having someone stand their ground so calmly in a situation like this. He expected fear or confusion, not quiet confidence. Serena remained composed. She understood that keeping calm was her best chance of avoiding the situation getting worse. She kept her hands visible and her voice steady. Her military training had taught her to stay collected no matter what, and she relied on those lessons now. Rex sat close to Serena, alert but controlled. The dog was trained to protect but only when necessary. Serena trusted Rex to sense danger and react correctly, but she also trusted him to listen to her commands without hesitation. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was a partner who had been through tough times with Serena and knew how to act in high-pressure situations. Brad stepped closer, his voice rising. "Step away from the vehicle now," he demanded. Serena looked at him calmly and said, "Officer, may I ask why?" Brad's face tightened with frustration. "Because I said so," he snapped. "Don't make me call for more backup." A few people who had been watching from a distance began to step closer, sensing the tension in the air. Some took out their phones, ready to record if things got out of control. Serena could feel their eyes on her, but she refused to let the pressure get to her. She knew this moment was about more than just a traffic stop. It was about respect, fairness, and standing up against unfair treatment. Brad reached for the door handle again, his movements quick and harsh. Rex growled low and steady, a warning, not an attack. The dog's growl was firm and clear. It was a signal to Brad that Rex was ready to protect Serena if needed. Brad stopped for a moment, surprised by the dog's reaction. He wasn't expecting the German Shepherd to be so alert, but instead of stepping back or calming down, Brad became more aggressive. "Control your dog," Brad shouted. Serena shook her head slowly. "He's trained, officer. He's not a threat unless I say so." Brad's eyes narrowed. He took a step closer, ignoring the warning growl. The situation was escalating quickly, and Serena knew things could get dangerous if Brad made a wrong move. The bystanders began to murmur among themselves, and some raised their phones to record. Serena's heart beat steadily, but inside she felt a surge of determination. She knew she had to stay strong, not just for herself but for Rex and for anyone watching who might be inspired by her courage. Suddenly, Brad reached into his jacket. Serena's eyes widened for a moment as she saw the movement. She instinctively took a small step back, and Rex positioned himself between her and Brad, standing tall and firm. The crowd gasped softly. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Just then, the supervisor arrived. He was a middle-aged man named Sergeant Davis who had a reputation for fairness and calm leadership. Davis quickly took in the scene: the tense officer, the calm woman, and the focused dog. "Officer," Thompson stepped back, Davis said firmly. Brad hesitated, but then obeyed. Davis looked at Serena and said, "Ma'am, can you tell me what's going on here?" Serena took a deep breath and began to explain. She told Davis about her military service, about Rex's training, and about the traffic stop. She spoke clearly and respectfully, hoping that Davis would understand her situation. Davis listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. He glanced at Rex, who sat quietly by Serena's side, still alert but obedient. After Serena finished, Davis turned to Brad. "Did you have a reason to escalate this stop?" Brad looked away, embarrassed. "I thought she was hiding something," he admitted quietly. Davis shook his head. "You need to be more careful. We don't tolerate unfair treatment here." Serena felt a small wave of relief. The supervisor seemed to see the truth. Davis then asked Serena if she had all her documents in order. She handed him her driver's license, registration, and military ID. Davis looked over everything and nodded. "Thank you, ma'am," he said. "I'm sorry this happened. We'll make sure it's handled properly." The crowd around them began to disperse, some people nodding in approval at Serena's calm strength. Serena looked at Brad one last time. She didn't say anything more. She knew the real work was still ahead, making sure incidents like this didn't happen to others. Rex sat down next to her, relaxed now that the tension was easing. Serena petted him gently, grateful for his loyalty and calm presence. As they prepared to leave, Serena glanced back at the officers. She hoped this experience would teach them something important, that respect and understanding must come first. The tension between Officer Brad Thompson and Serena Miles had reached its highest point. Brad was still on edge, his eyes flicking between Serena and Rex, the war-trained German shepherd who sat quietly but alert beside her. The small crowd that had gathered nearby held its breath, sensing something important was unfolding. Brad was not a man used to being challenged. He had expected Serena to be nervous or scared, like many people were during traffic stops. But instead she was calm, confident, and composed, qualities that unsettled him even more. Serena's quiet strength was not something he had anticipated. Brad took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "Step away from the car now," he ordered again. Serena looked at him, her voice steady. "Officer, I have asked why multiple times. I would like to know the reason before I comply." Brad's frustration showed clearly on his face. He was losing patience, and the crowd's attention was making him feel more pressure. But Serena stood her ground. She wasn't going to give in to fear or anger. She had faced much worse in her life and knew how to keep calm. As Brad reached for the door handle again, Rex growled softly. It was a low, warning growl, not aggressive, but clear. Rex was telling Brad to be careful, to respect the space between them. The dog was trained to protect Serena, but only when absolutely necessary. Brad stopped for a moment, surprised by the dog's reaction. But instead of backing away, he seemed to grow more determined. He stepped closer, ignoring the warning. "Control your dog," Brad shouted, his voice harsh. Serena shook her head slowly, her eyes never leaving Brad's. "He is trained, officer. He will not harm anyone unless I command him. Please, let's keep this peaceful." The tension in the air was thick. People around them were holding their phones, recording what they saw. They knew that what was happening could become more than just a simple traffic stop. Brad's hand moved toward his jacket again. Serena's heart raced for a moment as she saw the movement. She instinctively took a small step back, and Rex immediately positioned himself between her and Brad. The dog's body was strong and steady, standing tall, but not attacking. The crowd gasped softly. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. At that moment, the supervisor, Sergeant Davis, arrived on the scene. He walked quickly toward the group, his face serious but calm. Davis had heard the call for backup and knew this situation could become dangerous if not handled carefully. "Officer Thompson, step back," Davis said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension. Brad hesitated, then obeyed. Davis turned to Serena and said, "Ma'am, please tell me what is happening here." Serena took a deep breath and explained clearly. She told Davis about her military service, how Rex was trained by military K-9 specialists, and how she had been stopped for what she believed was an unfair reason. She spoke calmly and respectfully, hoping Davis would understand her side. Davis listened carefully, nodding as she spoke. He glanced at Rex, who sat quietly, still alert, but obedient. When Serena finished, Davis looked at Brad. "Did you have a valid reason to escalate this stop?" Brad looked down, avoiding eye contact. "I thought she might be hiding something," he admitted quietly. Davis shook his head. "That is not enough reason to threaten someone or their dog. You need to remember your training and treat everyone with respect." Serena felt a small wave of relief. The supervisor seemed to see the situation more clearly than Brad had. Davis then asked Serena to provide her documents. She handed him her driver's license, registration, and military ID. Davis reviewed everything and nodded. "Thank you, ma'am," he said sincerely. "I apologize for the way this was handled. We will make sure this is addressed." The crowd nearby began to relax and slowly disperse. Some people whispered in approval of Serena's calm and dignified behavior. Serena looked at Brad one last time but said nothing. She knew that words might only make things worse. Instead, she focused on Rex, who was now sitting calmly beside her. As Serena and Rex prepared to leave, the supervisor approached Brad again. "We will review the body camera footage and the bystander's video. This kind of behavior cannot be ignored." Brad nodded silently, looking ashamed. Serena took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions, relief, exhaustion, and hope. She hoped that her experience would help others and bring attention to the need for fairness and respect in policing. Rex leaned into her side, sensing her feelings. Serena smiled softly and patted him gently. Together, they walked away from the scene, leaving behind a crowd that had witnessed something powerful. A woman's quiet courage in the face of unfair treatment, and a dog trained not just for war but for loyalty and protection. After the tense moment at the roadside, things began to calm down, but the situation was far from over. Serena Miles stood patiently as Sergeant Davis carefully examined the documents she had provided. There was her driver's license, registration for the SUV, and her military identification card. Each piece told a part of her story, a story that Brad Thompson had ignored before jumping to conclusions. Serena's military ID was not just a card. It was proof of years of service, of hard work, and of sacrifice. She had been a staff sergeant in the Army and had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. She had faced danger and loss in faraway lands and had come home with strength and resilience. Rex, her loyal German shepherd, was not just a pet but a partner who had been trained by military K-9 specialists to assist her during her missions. This wasn't a dog that just barked or growled randomly. Rex was disciplined and well-trained, and Serena trusted him completely. Sergeant Davis listened closely as Serena explained these details. She spoke clearly, without anger or bitterness, but with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced worse challenges. Her voice carried the calm of someone who had learned to be steady, even when the world seemed unfair. Once Davis was satisfied with the documents, he pulled out his radio and called for the body camera footage from the officers on the scene. He also requested the video recorded by the bystanders who had been watching nearby. Within minutes, the footage arrived. The first video showed the beginning of the stop. It was clear that the taillight on Serena's SUV was indeed flickering, which was why Brad Thompson had pulled her over. But the video also showed how quickly Brad's attitude changed once he saw Serena and Rex. He seemed tense, suspicious, and less professional than an officer should be. The video captured Brad's sharp commands and how he reached for the door handle aggressively. The bystanders' video offered a different view. It showed Serena standing calmly outside the vehicle, with Rex positioned protectively beside her. The dog did not bark or lunge, he simply stood alert, obeying Serena's commands. The crowd could be heard murmuring, surprised at how composed Serena remained despite the officer's harsh behavior. Sergeant Davis watched carefully, his face growing serious. He then turned to Brad and said firmly, "This kind of behavior is unacceptable. You must remember that every person you stop deserves respect and fair treatment. Acting on assumptions without cause only harms the community and our department." Brad lowered his eyes and nodded quietly. It was clear he realized his mistake. Davis then assured Serena that the incident would be properly investigated. "We will review everything thoroughly, and if there are any issues with Officer Thompson's conduct, appropriate actions will be taken." Serena felt a sense of relief. She had faced many tough situations in her life, but this one had tested her patience and dignity in new ways. She hoped that her calm and facts would help bring change, not just for herself but for others who might face unfair treatment in the future. Word of the incident spread quickly. The videos were shared by local community groups, veterans organizations, and people who wanted to stand against injustice. Many praised Serena for her courage and for keeping calm under pressure. They also admired Rex's discipline and loyalty. The attention the story received helped shine a light on the importance of proper police training and the need for officers to understand and respect all members of the community. It showed how quickly misunderstandings could escalate if people did not approach situations with care and respect. Serena was invited to speak at several events, where she shared her experiences as a veteran and the challenges she faced at home. She talked about the importance of staying calm, knowing your rights, and standing up for fairness. Rex became a symbol of loyalty and protection, inspiring others to train and respect their animals in new ways. Meanwhile, the police department launched a review of Officer Brad Thompson's actions. The investigation looked at his past behavior, training records, and how he handled the stop. The department made it clear they were committed to improving how officers interacted with the community, especially those who had served in the military or faced discrimination. For Serena, this experience was a reminder of the power of patience, respect, and strength. She knew that change often took time, but she believed that every peaceful stand against unfairness helped move society forward. Rex remained by her side through it all, a quiet but powerful reminder of loyalty and courage. Together, they continued their lives, Serena as a veteran and community advocate, Rex as a trusted companion and protector. Their story became one of hope and resilience. It reminded people that courage was not always loud or violent. Sometimes it was quiet and steady, like a calm voice in a storm or a dog standing firm beside the person it loved. After the incident with Officer Brad Thompson, Serena Miles knew that her journey was far from over. Though the immediate danger had passed, the effects of that day stayed with her. The experience had been difficult, but it also gave her a new sense of purpose. She wanted to use her story to help others and to make sure that people like her would be treated fairly in the future. Serena's life returned to its normal rhythm, but with a new focus. She spent more time working with local community groups and veterans organizations. These groups were dedicated to helping people who had served in the military and to promoting justice and understanding. Serena shared her story openly, talking about the challenges she faced and the importance of standing up for what is right. She spoke at schools, community centers, and police training events. At each place, Serena reminded people that respect and kindness go a long way, especially when dealing with others who might seem different. She talked about how important it was for police officers to listen carefully and treat everyone with fairness. Rex, her loyal German Shepherd, was always by her side. People who met Rex were often surprised by how calm and gentle he was, especially knowing his military training. Rex had helped Serena through many tough moments, and now he became a symbol of trust and protection for their community. Serena also worked with police departments to help officers better understand the lives of veterans and the special bonds they share with their service dogs. She helped organize training sessions where officers could learn about military service, post-traumatic stress, and the ways service dogs assist their owners. These sessions helped build trust and respect between the police and the community. One day, Serena received a letter from the police department. It was the result of the investigation into Officer Brad Thompson's actions. The department had decided to provide him with additional training focused on fairness, communication, and respect. They also made it clear that similar behavior would not be tolerated in the future. Serena felt that this was an important step forward. It showed that her voice, and the voices of others who had faced unfair treatment, could bring real change. But she knew the work was ongoing. Changing minds and hearts took time, patience, and courage. In her personal life, Serena found comfort in the support of her family and friends. They had stood by her throughout the ordeal, offering love and encouragement. Rex remained her constant companion, always attentive and protective. Together they enjoyed peaceful walks in the park and quiet evenings at home. Serena's story inspired many people. Articles and videos about her experience spread across social media, reaching far beyond her small town. Veterans, activists, and everyday citizens shared her story, seeing in it a reminder of the strength that comes from standing firm in the face of injustice. Through it all, Serena never lost her calm and steady spirit. She knew that her story was about more than just one traffic stop. It was about hope, dignity, and the power of respect. One afternoon, Serena was invited to speak at a large community event focused on building stronger relationships between police and the public. She stood before a crowd of hundreds, including officers, veterans, and local residents. Her voice was clear and confident as she shared her journey. She told them about the moment when Brad Thompson underestimated her and Rex, how she had stayed calm, and how the support of others had helped her find justice. Serena spoke about the importance of seeing people for who they truly are, not judging them based on fear or assumptions. When she finished, the crowd applauded warmly. Many people came forward to thank her, saying her story had touched their hearts and opened their eyes. As Serena looked out over the audience, she felt a deep sense of hope. She believed that with patience, understanding, and courage, communities could come together and create a better future. Rex lay quietly at her feet, a reminder that sometimes the strongest protectors don't roar. They stand steady and loyal, ready to defend those they love. Serena's journey was a powerful example of resilience and respect. It showed that even in the face of unfairness, kindness, and calm could make a difference. And it proved that real strength comes not from force, but from standing firm in your truth and standing up for others.